The Pittsburgh Steelers are 2-1, and like Mike Tomlin says, it is always better to learn while you win than learn while you lose. Right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers sit atop the AFC North. They are 2-1, leaving Vegas with a victory. And for the first time, they have a quarterback and an offensive coordinator that look like they know what they're doing. What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah Strackbine. Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to-go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/allsteelerstalk and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, their victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. The first time they beat the Raiders on the road since 1995. Kenny Pickett has already done something in year two that Ben Roethlisberger was unable to do throughout his entire career. Awesome. If you're an analytics guy, if you're a stats guy, phenomenal day for the Pittsburgh Steelers and for their young quarterback. But a bigger day. Why? Because for the first time this season, the Pittsburgh Steelers looked like they could actually do something on offense. For the first time this season, it appeared, and this is just regular season, it appeared that Kenny Pickett could be a winning quarterback and that Matt Canada could call a play call and call a game in a way that doesn't screw you out of any opportunity to go and claim a victory. Heading into the game was wild. The emotions throughout the day for Pittsburgh Steelers fans were crazy. And it was almost to a point where you felt bad before the game started. Why? Because only hours before kickoff, Jordan Schultz of The Score reports that the Pittsburgh Steelers have given Matt Canada an even bigger role with this team, and he will now work daily with Kenny Pickett in an effort to get the young quarterback to play better and to develop him and so on and so forth. And everybody had the same reaction. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Pittsburgh Steelers fans have begged and pleaded for this team to get rid of their offensive coordinator, and instead they gave him a more prominent role. Didn't make any sense. Still doesn't make any sense. But if you're gonna take a chance, if you're gonna put that much pressure on yourself and on your offensive coordinator as a head coach, as a GM, as an owner, this is the game that you wanted to have. You wanted to have a moment where your quarterback, who looked rattled early, and your offensive coordinator, who looked like normal Matt Canada early, could come through in crucial moments, can do enough to win you a football game and to come close to breaking some milestones that they desperately need to break. Now, before we get into the good, there were definitely some bad. Kenny Pickett remains a guy who a lot of times looks way too rattled out there. There is no reason to have the happy feet that he has. The offensive line isn't great, but it's not that bad. And there are plenty of times where if Kenny Pickett stays in the pocket, there is no sack. There is no throwaway. There is no incompletion. There is no totally lost play. He gets himself into those situations all the time. It is almost as if Kenny Pickett is still a player who the game is moving way too fast for. Like it is game one against the New York Jets, and he is sitting around still beyond lost because everybody around him is moving at a speed that he cannot adapt to. That is what it feels like. The second that he hits that drop back, you almost certainly know that he's going to try to move and going to try to change where the pocket is and run and use his feet, because that's just what happens. When the game's moving fast, you want to move with it. That way you could try to slow it down. The problem is it doesn't work. Now, when it did, when Kenny Pickett was able to stay in the pocket, even if he was taking hits, he was able to deliver blows. He was able to hit a deep ball to Calvin Austin or a play action touchdown pass that we will get to in a minute to Pat Freiermuth, or open receivers and Allen Robinson or George Pickens across the middle. There were huge plays that Kenny Pickett made once he could tell himself, stay in the pocket, make a play, stop being rattled, just calm down for 2 seconds and let it all develop. And when it develops, it works. And that's what we needed to see, because that's what we saw in the preseason, and that's what they worked on all summer. And you were so nervous about it coming into this game to say, man, Kenny Pickett They worked as hard as they could to get this guy to stay in the pocket, and he just isn't able to do it. And I still think there is a lot of work to be done, but this is the first step in a really good direction for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is the first time all season that you could come on here, that I could come on here and say to you guys, Kenny did enough to say, okay, give him another week. Okay, let's see where this goes. This isn't terrible. You could build off of this. That wasn't there the first 2 weeks of the season, and that's huge. For Matt Canada, I mean, we just said it. There was a play-action touchdown to Pat Freiermuth, and everybody on social media lost their minds. Why? Because we didn't think that was possible. We didn't think Matt Canada knew what play-action was or that he had any idea or sense to use it. You want to know what there wasn't this game? A bunch of random jet sweeps or useless halfback tosses. The play calling was actually pretty decent. For the first time all season, possibly the first time in 2.5 years, Matt Canada called a game where you sat there and said, all right, this is not bad. This is okay. This is pretty good. There are no complaints. There were moments where you're like, probably could have got better, but I think everybody has those moments. But for the most part, Matt Canada did his job, and he did it well, as crazy as that sounds. And when you do it well, guess what? Things execute. Calvin Austin catches deep balls. Kenny Pickett calms down for a second. George Pickens does what George Pickens does, and people make plays. Your running game works. Your offensive line works. There are still adjustments that need to be made. I don't know why the Pittsburgh Steelers and why Matt Canada believes that Mason Cole is just this super athletic center who could do all the things that Jason Kelce does, because he cannot. But if that's your only if, well, then you're okay leaving this game. You're not terrible. That's where the Pittsburgh Steelers sit. Am I here to say that they got their mojo back? No. I still think there's a long way to go before the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is good enough not to wear out their defense, not to bang up everybody, and to win games in crucial moments. But right now, they sit in first place in the AFC North. They are 2-1 heading into week 4 against the Houston Texans. That should be a win. And then you come back home and you host the Baltimore Ravens with a really good opportunity to go into the bye week as leaders in the division and a crucial win, 2 crucial wins over 2 AFC North opponents. That is as big as it gets. Just like Mike Tomlin says, it's better to learn and win than learn and lose. Right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers are learning while they win, and they took a step forward. It is time not to give up on Kenny Pickett. And if it was, I would be the first person to sit here and say, it is time to give up on Kenny Pickett. I am not holding back in being critical for him or towards him. I just don't think that that does anybody any justice. I think that Kenny Pickett should be called out when he plays poorly, just like every other player on this team, and just like Matt Canada. But this week, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't even great. But it was good enough. It was good enough to say that you're okay with it and that you could give them another week. The Pittsburgh Steelers offense is on track to do something, maybe nothing, but you're feeling okay. And that's good enough for right now.